I think my faith really got me through it. If it was 2004 and I was without my devotion to Christ, I may have done it back in 2004 because I was a very lukewarm Christian and I wasn't doing work then.
Hey there, my name is Sean, and this is Suicide Noted. On this podcast, I talk with suicide attempt survivors and ideators so that we can hear their stories. Every year around the world, millions of people try to take their own lives, and we almost never talk about it. We certainly don't talk about it enough. And when we do talk about it, when we engage with people in pain, most of us are not very good at it. In fact, most of us are really quite bad at it. That is, of course, a problem. So one of my goals with this podcast is to have more conversations and hopefully better conversations with the survivors, in large part to help more people in more places hopefully feel a little less shitty and a little less alone. Now, if you are an attempt survivor or ideator and you'd like to talk, please reach out. I'd love to talk with you. hello@suicidenoted.com. You can learn more about Suicide Noted at our website, suicidenoted.com. You'll find some more information in the show notes and podcast description on Spotify, where we also have a weekly poll, on Apple, where we would really appreciate a 5-star rating if you think we've earned that. We've got some cool new projects coming up where we're doing the best we can to make them happen. I'll be sharing more about them with you soon. Finally, keep in mind, we are talking about suicide on this podcast. My guests and I don't hold back, so please take that into account before you listen or as you listen. But I do hope you listen because there is so much to learn. That is, of course, my idea, my version of a trigger warning. Like last week, and this is a little weird, I've got another kind of trigger warning. Last week it was about politics. This week's it is also about politics and religion. I'm half joking about a trigger warning, of course. These topics just don't come up that often. It just happened to come up 2 weeks in a row, and it is very much relevant to my guest's story and struggle. So, of course, I included them. Today I am talking with Matt. Matt lives in Vermont, and he is a near suicide attempt survivor. Hey, Matt, how you doing?
I'm okay. How are you?
Are you a New Yorker? Where are you from?
Vermont.
All right. You got one of those ways of speaking that's very interesting to me.
I'm a unique character.
Right. Okay. Good to have you, man. Thanks for talking. How did we find each other?
Found you in the school platform.
Cool. You're in Vermont. Nice state. I think we could all agree on that. I know you've got a book. I know you've been on some other podcasts, which is awesome.
Right.
So if the audience is wondering, a former guest and somebody that I connected with on the tour up in Massachusetts suggested Matt reach out. That means, Matt, that you have personal experience with suicide.
I have seen, because I've been in prison, witnessed an individual try to commit suicide.
Okay. So when I asked you if you're a suicide attempt survivor and you said yes, what did that mean?
I'm a survivor of seeing.
Okay, so why are we talking? Because this podcast is for people who are either suicide attempt survivors, in terms of attempt survivors, their own, or, they think about it, they've thought about it, they've considered it.
I've thought about it.
All right, so that's where we're going to talk some of our conversation, okay?
Okay.
Because this is very specific in terms of who I talk to, even though I know people who have seen it or lost people need people to talk to too, but I'm very clear on kind of who I talk to. Is that cool?
Yes.
All right. How old are you? I'm wondering.
44.
You wrote a book?
Yes.
When was the book published?
2022.
Sweet. Congratulations on that.
Thank you.
Do you feel good about the book?
I feel that the book came out the best that I could have it at the time.
It's hard to write, isn't it?
So there's a difference between I wrote my book to share my story. I didn't write it with the intention that it would necessarily captivate the audience.
Right. Okay. So you were writing more to just sort of get it out and see if people
connected with it? Yes.
All right. And have people responded positively? Have you gotten some nice feedback, or has it been quiet?
I've gotten some nice feedback and some negative feedback.
Fuck them. I applaud the effort either way. What's the name of the book?
Bullied behind bars, a gay Christian Trump supporter goes to prison.
That's a captivating title, and I don't think you know this, but I'm very good with memoir titles, and I wouldn't have come up with that, and I love it. Did you come up with that?
Yes.
That's good, man. There's so many things about that I want to ask you, and I will. So you have experienced suicide in a couple of ways. In that, when you were in prison, I'm just sort of sharing stuff that you either emailed me or I learned a little bit from reading about your book, or the blurb, I should say. When you were in prison, you witnessed a suicide.
I witnessed a man jump from the second story tier down to the bottom, and I witnessed him being removed by medical professionals.
Okay. And you don't know what happened with him after? Or?
I would have, I mean, he did a swan dive on the second story tier at
Yeah.
Dover, New Hampshire correctional facility. So
Okay.
I would imagine he's going to,
He
he
deceased?
must have broken bones and he's going to be disabled for the rest of his life.
Or
I mean,
he's dead.
yes,
Possible that too.
correct.
You don't get an update or a memo in the prison telling you exactly what happened with the guy. You're just
No,
left to
I don't
wonder.
even know. I think I know his name. The unit I was in was a 23-hour lockup. A lot of guys that were in the unit were there for detox. I was there because they didn't know what to do with me.
Oh, we're gonna get into that. Is that cool?
Yes.
Wait, so they're in jail for detox?
They're detoxing from drugs, and then once they're finished detoxing, then they'll put them in another unit.
Sounds like a really great life. So you were a kid of the 80s growing up in the 80s up there.
I was.
How was your life? When you were a kid, teenager, I know I'm asking, this is a hard question, but like, what was summarize as best you can, you were growing up.
Constantly bullied throughout almost all of my childhood, difficulty making and maintaining friendships. I wasn't diagnosed with autism until I was 20 years old.
But you grew up with it, obviously. It didn't just magically appear when you were 20. You just got diagnosed when you were 20.
Correct.
Bullied behind bars. I want to, of course, get into that, but that means the bullying continued in your adulthood.
It did. Yeah. I continued while I was in prison, and I wanted to share my story just like Anne Frank shared her story with the world. I wanted to do the same thing.
Did you just compare yourself to Anne Frank? Wow, you're a bold man. I'm really curious about a number of things. I'm curious about, obviously, how you end up in prison, if you're cool sharing that. But also, you are or were the following things: gay, Christian, and a Trump supporter.
I'm all three of those.
And you're currently all three of those.
Correct. Yes, that
This
hasn't
is
changed.
all right. This is going to be juicy. And we're also going to talk about your feelings of, thoughts of ideating suicidal, because that's a big part of this podcast.
Correct.
People who've written books have spent a lot of time thinking about their experiences in their life. I'm going to ask you some questions, but you go wherever you want to go, okay? In terms of sharing what happened.
Sounds good.
How old are you when you go to prison?
2004 was the first time I went to prison.
All right, so that would have been in your
23.
23. How did you end up in prison at that age?
I worked at a car dealership, Freedom Nissan on Shelburne Road. They didn't pay me my commissions. I took matters into my own hands and tried to sell one of their cars, got caught. Bob Wolford, who ran Howard Mental Health, I've seen Bob Wolford many, many times. I knew him personally. And Judge Jeffrey Crawford both decided I didn't meet the criteria for the mental health court.
Okay.
And disqualified me. If I was allowed to complete the mental health court, I may not have a criminal record today. But instead, I went through the traditional court system and came out with a record. I couldn't pass a background check. So in 2009, I used other people's information to get a job, find work. And the government pursued me for 6 years, spent about $500,000, went to 10 grand juries, and finally got an indictment against me in 2016, and I was indicted.
For what?
Aggravated identity theft.
Do you think you now today, looking back, should have been in the gotten some mental health care, and that would have presumably helped or solved the problem in part?
I think if I was allowed to complete the mental health court, that I wouldn't have a record today. Yes.
You think your life would have been very different?
I think I still would have had challenges, but if I didn't have a record, Sean, then I would be able to pass a background check. So the events that happened afterwards would have never happened.
Right. So essentially, you fuck up once, and I'm using those words, you may not, and then your life is really affected because once you're in the system, it's hard to break out.
Correct.
And like not just behind bars. I mean, even when you're living and you have an apartment, like you can't get a job easily.
Can't find housing, can't adopt a child, have to go through the long lines at the airport, can't serve on a jury, can't own a gun. The list goes on and on.
I bet. So the punishment isn't just the sentence. It's like a
It's
life.
not. It's a
Wow.
death sentence.
Wow. And that's for everybody that goes through that.
Yes, because
Well,
everybody who
yeah.
gets a charge on their record, it will be there for their entire life. The
Is that
only
yeah?
way to
So,
get it removed is expungement.
mhm.
Most felonies are not eligible for expungement.
Probably costs a lot of money too.
It does. You have to hire an attorney, and the attorney has to work with the state to get, and then you have to have a judge to sign off on it. And at least in Vermont, we have a Republican. Well, he's a rhino. His name is Phil Scott, and he's been in office since 2017. This individual has not issued a presidential pardon since he's been in office.
He's a rhino, meaning he's a Democrat.
Rhino means Republican in name only.
Oh, is that right?
Yes.
I
But
didn't
he's
know
not
that.
issued a pardon to anybody since he's been in office.
Got it. So how many years in total have you spent behind bars?
36 months. When I went to prison the first time, all of my time was spent in two facilities in Vermont. When I did my federal time, I went to 10 different facilities throughout New York and New England.
But you weren't there because you like physically harmed somebody,
Correct.
which feels really different. Like stealing a car and identity theft feel fundamentally different than like assaulting a human being.
I'm well aware of that.
Right. I'm just saying shit that's obvious, right? Kind of just saying it for the audience too. Let me ask you this, because you brought up mental health, you brought up autism, you brought up that your life would have been challenging anyway, and you were bullied as a kid, all this stuff.
There is no doubt that even if I didn't have a record shot today,
Yeah.
my life has always been challenging,
Right.
only exacerbated
Yeah.
because of my criminal record.
Yeah, I completely understand that, or at least on paper, it makes complete sense. Whether it was in prison or outside of prison, growing up or this day or any time in between, I'm curious of your thoughts of not wanting to be alive and when those thoughts occurred, or if they're often or once in a while or one time only. How was that for you?
They only really occurred when I was in prison. And I spent a lot of time in 23-hour lockup because the inmates would lie to the guards, tell them I tried to proposition them, and then
Oh,
they would put me in solitary confinement.
because they said you propositioned them.
Correct.
And do they say that only because they know you're gay?
Yes.
Okay. I am curious. This is actually something I've never had the opportunity to ask somebody, at least not on this podcast. Generally speaking, and then we'll break it down as much as you want and you're comfortable talking about. What's prison like?
It's a challenging time for most individuals. You are confined to a small space. You're surrounded with individuals that are mostly in there for drug offenses and are members of various gangs.
Hmm.
And most are in there for violent crimes. There are a lot of sex offenders. One minute it could be calm, and the next minute it could be a riot.
I would think for most people that does like such damage to like your nervous system.
It does. I mean, there was so many breaking points for me, but I knew that when I was in isolation, even though it was tough to be locked in a cell for 23 hours a day, I was safe. Nobody was going to harm me.
Right.
So it's sort of a catch-22 because here I am safe, but yet I'm locked in to this cell and can't leave. And there's
How
no
big?
TV.
Why not?
A lot of prisons in the federal system don't have TVs in the cell.
Okay. So how did you pass the time?
I read my Bible. I prayed.
Wow. That's a lot of reading and praying.
Yes.
Because you said, and this is just, again, I'm reading the subtitle, like, so you're Christian. Grew up
Yes.
Christian also? Grew up Christian?
I was raised Catholic. I went to catechism courses. I served as an altar boy, but I was just doing it to fulfill somebody else's expectations of me. I didn't I was a very lukewarm Christian.
Oh, that's an interesting expression. Okay. And now are you more, I suppose you would say? Is that however you want to frame that, more
I am a
Christian?
devoted Christian. It is in my DNA. I am doing the work. I'm in my Bible for hours on end every single day. I'm praying.
Wow.
I'm trying to help other men and women to release themselves of burdens, encourage each person that they have to love themselves before they can love another person. And if they expect to get confirmation from the world, they'll always get disappointed.
Hmm. Okay. This is fascinating. Even though I don't know if this is related at all to sort of mental health challenges, but let me ask you, is your sexual orientation or your faith connected at all, past or present, to any feelings of not wanting to be alive?
I think a large portion of it is feeling being rejected by the various men's groups that I've been tried to be a part of and not fitting into their box of
Hmm.
who they want to have in the group. And most men's groups are really tailored to straight men that have kids, and anyone outside of that doesn't fit in that box and they become an outlier.
In all places, or particularly in prison?
No, I'm referring to men's groups that various men's groups that I've been a part of since 2022.
Okay. So when I was asking you about a few minutes ago about any thoughts of not wanting to be alive, if I remember correctly, you said that that really only happened in prison.
Yes,
Okay. So how long have you been out of prison?
since 2018.
Okay, and you're referring to the men's groups in 2022. You were a free man in many ways, not always. So that doesn't apply in that. That was feelings of rejection, challenging, but not
Well, I've
suicide.
always felt a lot of rejection and trying to fit in. And, that
Hmm.
song, Place in This World by Michael W. Smith. I love that song. It's such a amazing song. I don't fit in, but I don't want to fit in as well, Sean.
Did you make any friends in prison?
That's an interesting question. The answer is no. Well, actually, I take that back. The answer, I'm sorry, is yes. I have two senior friends that are of mine. That one, Pastor Mo Wilbur, I actually go to his church. I met him. He was a volunteer. So
Okay.
it's an interesting question. Did I meet any friends as prisoners? The answer is no. But I made friends of volunteers that came in. That would be yes.
And tell me this, particularly because you're sharing that for a lot of your time, you were reading the Bible and you were praying. I know you still do that, but I'm thinking about your time in prison because that's the times in your life when you felt, I don't want to be alive.
Yes.
Can you tell me more about that? I'm really curious. And I don't know if there's a lens of Christianity, whatever, however you want to share it. I'm really curious what that's like, what those thoughts or feelings are like, how you navigate them.
I would say trying to figure out how I can get myself out of this situation as quickly as possible.
Mhm.
Falling off the top bunk, that was really scary for me.
Thinking of wanting to erase yourself from the world was really, I want out of this situation.
Yes.
How often would you think about that?
I would say every couple of days while I was in prison.
And how close did you come?
Oh, not very close.
No.
No, but I mean, I had the thoughts.
Right. Yeah.
I think my faith really got me through it. If it was 2004 and I was without my devotion to Christ, I may have done it back in 2004 because I was a very lukewarm Christian and I wasn't doing work then.
I would think that people trying to end their lives is probably not, I don't know. It's probably more common in prison. I'm guessing. I don't know.
Well, suicides are very common in prisons.
Right. So you see it. You had one experience where you saw it. You hear about them, I imagine.
Right.
Huh.
The system is a disaster. There is really no assistance for people with mental health. In
Right.
fact, I talked to a woman yesterday that was telling me that a lot of the mental institutions that were in Chicago were closed.
Yeah. I think the way mental health is approached and the justice system is approached, I think that they, meaning some people, if they're not explicitly encouraging people to kill themselves, they're certainly negligent and they know it's going to happen. And it's like, oh, well, that's my thoughts. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I think it's the negativity from the prison guards, the passive aggressive and aggressive behavior by inmates. It's a whole combination of factors.
Yeah.
Locking somebody in a cell for 24 hours a day does a, a number on anyone. I don't
Oh,
care if you're the toughest guy in the world. The guards use their power to manipulate situations. If you watch 60 Days In, you could get an idea, although that's really tough because you never know if it's real or if they're making it for television.
I mean, I used to always assume that the real thing is worse.
It is, yes,
Yeah.
because what's going on without the cameras rolling is
Yeah.
really what matters, where it
Right.
happens.
All the stuff every day, all the moments. Yeah, of course. Yeah. I'm curious. You said that you had a particular, reason for writing your book, right?
My reason was it was cathartic. I
Yeah.
had a lot of time on my hands, and being able to write down my thoughts, my observations.
Why are you, so this is now, we're almost in 2026. The book's been out for a few years. You've been out of prison for more. Why do you want to talk? At least with me, I know you were on at least one other podcast, if that's correct, I believe, right? Yeah. Why? What's the interest in talking with somebody? And then, the way podcasts work, other people hear it, even if it's sort
Yeah,
of
it's
like,
all about networking. And then if I can help somebody can reach out to me and talk about it.
yeah.
I'm happy to be an ally. If you have an organization that's looking for speakers, I would love
Mm-hmm.
to share my testimony in front of large groups of people, at-risk teens, folks that are thinking about committing suicide. 1 out of 5 men are committing suicide. The suicide rate in men is far more prolific than it is in women.
1 out of 5 isn't right. I don't know the numbers, but 20% of the men in, let's say, the United States
Right.
are. I don't know the numbers. That seems very
Okay.
high, but nonetheless,
Yes.
it's a problem.
It's because men are taught to suffocate their emotions, to bury them, and they don't seek out help that they need. And I've seen this whether it was in prison, Sean, or out doing the various men's work I've done. It's
Yeah,
sometimes very hard to get men to open up. I've
yeah.
had a friend for 2 years, and I barely know him. He refuses to open up. All he wants to talk about are sports,
Mhm.
weather, and the leaves changing in New England.
Which are very pretty.
They are, but they're only a distraction from what's really going on inside. And I talk to people about those 6 core emotions:
Oh,
sad, angry, scared, happy, excited. And the T I don't really like. It's tender. I replace it with loving. And
who came up with these 6 emotions framed that way?
I've been doing men's work for quite some time, for 3 years.
Yeah.
And we are taught that they call them sachet emotions.
Okay.
And
Okay.
it's amazing for me to hear men check in and say they're all 6 emotions. Sean, there's no way that you could be 6 very different emotions at the same time. It's
For sure.
how I'm feeling right now. It's
Okay.
not an hour ago. It's not
Okay.
yesterday. It's right now.
Tell me
And
the six.
men have a very challenging time getting in touch with how they're feeling.
Yeah. So what are you right now?
I am angry that we're not on video.
Okay. Do you want to try video?
No, it's fine, Sean.
Okay. I'm just trying to make the best audio quality. That's all. So I apologize
Right.
for that.
That's fine.
Okay.
Scared that some of these questions I have never been asked on any podcast I've ever been on.
Oh. Oh, then I really appreciate you being open to answering them. It's your choice, of course.
For me, the more vulnerable you are, the more you could relate to other people.
Yeah. I agree with you. Yeah, I struggle with that too, hard a lot. I'm a middle-aged man also. So you had said something that one of the reasons that you talk with people, whether it's like a group or a presentation, I'm sure there's a number, but one of the things you said that caught my attention, given the name of this podcast and the work I do, is to help people who are thinking about ending their lives. So I want to hear more about that. And I want you to and I want to hear whatever you want to share with that. And then I want to create an imaginary scenario where I'm in the audience listening to you. Okay. I'm a little older than you. And I don't know if this matters, but we have some differences. We have a lot of things in common, but here's a few differences. I'm straight. I grew up culturally Jewish, but I'm essentially agnostic. Okay. I'm mostly apolitical. And I'm sharing this because you've brought this up. It's in your subtitle in your book. So clearly it matters. And I am mostly, not mostly, I am not on board with our current president. We're different. Now, I don't know if that has any connection to your message, but I'm sort of framing it that way. Now, I'm in the audience and I'm somebody, and this is in real life. I'm not making this up. I said it was imaginary in that I'm not actually in the audience, but I am your audience right now in a way. And the truth is that I am sometimes thinking about passively. I don't have a plan. I don't have a date. I don't really think much about method, but I do think about not wanting to be alive in a sort of space between, I call it.
Where is that coming from?
So if we were one on one, you would ask me that question. But what if we're like in a auditorium? You probably don't have the luxury of having these extended one on one personal conversations, right? I don't know if that's true, but I imagine.
So what I would do is I would ask how many people in the audience have ever thought about or are considering right now. I would probably start off with asking how many people have ever thought about committing suicide.
All right, and
The show of hopefully people are honest and want to be and will raise their hand if they have. But there is a very likely that people will not raise their hands that are thinking of that.
100%, right. So we can assume in a group of 100 people, and it depends on the audience. Like 100 prisoners might be a little different statistically than 100 whatever, right? 100 members of the local church. But we know that some of them will raise their hand. We know probably more not should raise their hand, but are eligible, but they won't. So what I always wonder about, and this is really aligned with the work I do, so I'm really curious, is what kind of message can you share with somebody, especially somebody who has these differences that might resonate?
That it doesn't matter what trauma you've been through, I can relate to the trauma. We've all been through trauma, and it's how you deal with it. And my premise of what I do is to talk about, open up, be vulnerable, because pushing, suffocating, stuffing the emotions won't make them go away. Look, I grew up with a family full of stoics. And
Mm.
I'm the only one who shows emotions, and I show emotions on my shoulder. You'll know what I'm thinking every minute of every day.
And if I ask you like I did, you'll share it with me.
I will, because I can't expect somebody to open up to me unless I've opened up to them first.
That makes sense, for sure. I'm pretty sure you're not opening up much, nor are people opening up to you when you're in jail, prison.
No, it's not the right environment.
Right.
The only time that people really open up is perhaps in a Bible study.
Okay.
Or if I have a cellmate, he may open up a little bit.
But do you think men or anybody, frankly, would share with you thoughts of suicide, knowing and correct me if I'm wrong, of course, you're a devoted Christian, you study the Bible. What does the Bible say? And then I'll ask the question. I'm curious a couple of things. What does the Bible say, if anything, about suicide?
It's a
And
sin.
it's explicitly stated that it's a sin.
Yeah, it's an abomination, and it excludes somebody from inheriting the kingdom of God.
So does that mean that if I choose to take my life, then I'm going to hell?
Yes.
That seems like a tough punishment, though, for somebody who's just struggling really hard.
The Bible says what it means what it says.
Right. Then, so when you say you're devoted, you are.
Everything that I do is to fulfill God's glory. And everything that I have, I will give up in a minute to be with God.
And
So there's a difference between suicide and martyrdom.
oh, tell me the difference.
So suicide is I kill myself. Martyrdom is somebody kills me.
Oh, okay, sure. And in that case, you go to heaven.
Yes. I mean, Stephen was stoned. He was the
Right.
first martyr in the Bible.
Well, what happens to the person who killed you?
If I were to go back to what the Old Testament says, whoever kills me should be killed.
Wow, this is heavy. I know that you said you had thoughts of suicide when you were at times, but somewhat regularly in prison. So if for whatever reason you had taken that step and indeed died, you would be in hell right now.
But I wasn't a full-fledged Christian at that time. I mean, are you talking about when I was in federal prison? Yes.
Whether you're a Christian or not, if you take I'm not a Christian, but if I take my life, I go to hell.
Right.
Okay.
Correct.
So I don't practice that faith. I don't practice any faith. But if I did, I think that would be something that would make me really think hard before I tried to end my life.
Right. Well, every decision I make has both positive and negative consequences. So I can choose the sin, but I can't choose the consequence. I
Mm-hmm.
chose to take the car. I chose to use other people's information. I didn't have any control over the consequence.
Yeah, and you paid for it.
I did.
When your title, bullied behind bars. Why did you choose that title, and what does it mean?
That has been my lifelong struggle. I've been bullied throughout my entire life. Even doing some of these, being a part of these men's groups, I was bullied by upper level management
Mm-hmm.
because I was gay. And, that was an abomination of God. It's all projection.
Mm-hmm.
These people that are in leadership are trying to show that they're better than everybody else. We all have our sin. Every sin separates us from God. It doesn't matter whether I have one sin or 100 sins. Every sin separates me from God. And I personally don't believe being gay is a sin.
Well, hang on one second. So, what does the Bible say?
The Bible says it's an abomination.
And it also says suicide's an abomination.
Correct.
But you believe one and not the other.
Let me back up for a minute. The act of having sex outside of marriage is sin. Whether it's homosexual or whether it's heterosexual, the
Mm-hmm.
same applies.
Right.
So I am gay and I'm celibate.
Oh, that you're celibate.
Correct.
Why?
Because I want to be with God. And that is more important than the act of sex.
I see. Okay, that makes complete sense. When you said bullied behind bars, the image I have is you being in prison. From what you're sharing, I assume you mean it's not just prison. The bars represent more than that.
The bars represent both the mental
Mhm.
and the physical.
And do you feel like you're behind bars now in your life?
Partially because of my trouble still trying to find a job
Hmm.
and living in Vermont, being isolated from a lot of the rest of the world. I think Vermont is very isolated, and I've
Yeah,
lived here for 30 something years, so I know what isolation feels like.
right. You sure do. Where are you from originally?
I was born in Massachusetts.
Okay, but you're a New Englander through and through.
I am, yes, and it's a very tough place to live. People don't talk. You mind your P's and Q's, and it's very hard to make friends.
Hmm. That's the reputation. So in your book, also, you wrote in the subtitle, you bring up gay Christian Trump. Why did you choose to include all of those? Because you're other things up too, of course, right? So why those?
Because that defines who I am and that I don't fit in any boxes.
Right.
And I don't want to ever fit in boxes.
Really? No?
No,
It's about, okay, you're gay and you're Christian. Now let's talk about Trump. And you can get as political as you want. It's up to you, of course. Tell me about that. Because that I'm wondering your experience in the world these days. I would think that, especially well, I don't know how Vermont is, but certainly Massachusetts, that tends to lean very left.
Vermont is very left too.
Okay. So which of those three, gay, Christian, and Trump, gets the most pushback from people these days?
I would say gay and Christian.
Oh, okay. Really? Okay. I would have guessed Trump.
Well, I would say that. So I've had podcasters that won't even have me on their show because I'm a gay Christian and they've never heard of that. They think wrong. Think it's sinful. Quite frankly, most churches I've ever been a part of, they only want a certain type of person. And it's that type of person I talked to you earlier about, that straight man or woman that's married and has children. And
Right.
that's the only people they want a part of their group. And anybody on the outside doesn't fit in.
Hmm.
I assure you that there are other people that are just devoted to Christ, probably even more than those people. We want to show that you don't have to fit this artificial box to fit in.
I mean, isn't the whole point? Like, Jesus didn't fit into a box.
No disciple that God ever picked fit in the box.
Right. Why do you support Trump? I'm curious. What do you like about him?
I like that he's authentic, he's genuine, he speaks his mind, he doesn't care about what other people think of him.
Mhm.
I like that he, went through bankruptcy, came out on the other side.
You're 44 years old, right?
Correct.
Given what you shared, are you ever surprised that you're alive?
I don't think that has ever come to my mind. I think that I'm resilient. I'm a survivor, certainly. And I think that my story can resonate with anybody. Even if you don't agree with any, being gay or being a Christian or being a Trump supporter, I
Hmm.
think we all go through trauma at some level, or
For
we
sure.
witness trauma.
When you share your story, whether it's in your book or on a podcast or in a public presentation in a group, and especially when you bring up suicide, do you talk about your own thoughts of suicide?
No, never have.
Why not?
Well, it's never been asked.
Isn't that interesting? Because for me, when I think about somebody talking or sharing their story, and you led earlier with, the question around who in this room has thought about ending their lives. I would think that would be something you might want to, not might want to, but you would share as a way to connect. Do you know what I mean? I know people don't talk much about it. That's one of the reasons I have the podcast, right? It's like, okay, let's talk about it. Nobody's ever asked you that question.
No,
Isn't that, I find that fascinating. But you've asked people that question.
no, I don't generally ask people that question.
Right. You're normal.
No, one of my favorite questions to ask a potential new friend is, have you ever had an affair?
Oh, is that right? Oh, that's also
Yes.
a super personal one. Yeah. Do you think
Yeah.
they'll tell you? Do you think they'll tell you if they have?
So one person has told me he had an affair.
Okay.
Everybody else that I've asked has said no.
Are these like friends or people you just met?
No, these are friends.
Right.
Because,
Yeah.
I think for me, if I want to become friends with them, an affair is a very premeditated plan.
Uh-huh.
So if somebody's willing to have an affair, they're willing to share personal information about me with others.
Right. I see. You're testing them. I wanted to ask you, you said that when you were in this, when you got kind of put into the system, they didn't treat you for any mental health challenges. How did you get help or did you get help ever?
I mean, I saw a couple of psychologists, but there's really no mental health assistance behind bars.
What about after you were in prison?
Which time? I mean, I've seen probably 30 therapists in my entire life, and
Mm.
I don't find therapy at all helpful for me. And
Yeah,
I
I
I
understand.
I think it's important for anyone to look at different options before they make a decision,
For you,
because
it
what
was
works for me may not work for somebody else.
right. Did they ever diagnose you with anything that you think is actually accurate or you don't buy into that stuff?
I mean, I have autism. I'm on the Asperger's spectrum.
Hmm.
And if you want to put me in a box, you can, but
Hmm.
you're going to have a very difficult time putting me in a box because I don't fit in any box.
We just got to make, some people just make more boxes because they got to fit you somewhere. That's how they think.
Well, that's how humans think. That's
Right.
how we process things
Yeah,
is by putting compartmentalizing things,
sure.
which doesn't do anybody any justice.
One thing I ask all my guests, if they're having a really rough day or really rough time, do they have people to talk to that they really want to talk to? And I'm wondering how many people in your life you have to talk to.
I have a few people, which I didn't have for a long, long time. And I think I've been able to find those people through doing the men's work and being vulnerable and sharing and being open minded. And not everybody agrees with everything I say.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's important to focus on things that you share and not get into debates about things that you don't agree on. In other words, I have a friend that's a liberal. So talking about Trump isn't going to move the needle forward with him. And I don't want friends that agree with me about everything because that would be very, very boring.
That would be kind of boring. You're right. There's a lot of ways you could probably answer this question I want to ask you. I always ask about myths and misconceptions. Usually that's specifically around people's thoughts or attempts around suicide. So that could be something that you address, but there's all kinds of other things. Gay, Christian, Trump, prison. What are some myths or misconceptions that you want to dispel, if any?
That Trump supporters don't care about anybody else. They don't have emotions. I think for me, I want to help people. Anybody I can help, I'm happy to help. And I think talking about it is the best option,
And you're doing it.
right? And sharing my story and getting my name out there,
What helps you feel okay other than the Bible and praying?
knowing that I'm going to heaven.
You're 100% on that?
I am.
That's such faith, man.
In order to have faith, you have to have faith the size of a mustard seed. in order to be a full devoted Christian, I have to accept Genesis 1:1. If I don't accept Genesis 1:1, I might as well close the Bible
Hmm.
and move on. A lot of people want to rely on the five senses. Faith is a sixth sense.
Hmm.
And that's the biggest issue with the so-called self-help community is the entire community is built that I can fix all my problems on my own, which is a fallacy. Without
Hmm.
God, I can't solve anything. And no human being can solve all their problems. It's impossible. I can't figure out everything out on my own. No way.
Yeah. I know when we started talking, you brought up that you saw somebody, you witnessed a suicide attempt. Did you or have you ever lost somebody or known somebody in your life that either attempted or completed suicide?
I have not.
No.
I take that back. I'm wrong. It's been a long time, but one of my cousins
Hmm.
committed suicide.
Oh, it sounds like it was a long time ago.
It was while I was in prison and I had forgotten about it. And my parents didn't tell me about it until I got out. But he had a drug addiction problem and he overdosed.
Oh, so is it for sure suicide or we don't know?
I think it's a suicide, but I don't really have a close relationship with their family, so I don't know for sure.
When you were thinking about what you wanted to talk about, what are some of the things? Because I ask the questions I ask, but there's all sorts of things that I don't ask or things you might want to talk about. So, what are some of the things that we may not have discussed that you wanted to share?
I'm curious on what led you to start the podcast.
Oh, good question. Yeah, I can give you the answer as best I can give you, and that is a few things. I think we go way back to me losing my best friend to suicide when we were in our late 20s. I think I had two stays in hospital units, mental health, pretty short, and both were shockingly not helpful, and have struggled myself for many years with suicidal ideation. And so all of that together, I think I wanted to just create a space where people could talk as openly and honestly as they could, knowing that the name is suicide, but in talking about suicide, at least the way I do it, we're talking about your life as well. So it's a nice entry point for people to share about their lives, including that. And I know there are very few spaces to do that. So I don't know if that's a complete answer, but those are some really large, sort of the big stuff that led me to do it. And then once I started to do it, quite early on, I liked it. I thought I was decent at it. And then you get feedback from people, right? And so they'll respond, whether it's a listener or a guest saying thank you, or I appreciate you, or this helped me, or those kinds of things. So that makes it rather easy to keep doing it. And I just find it fascinating learning about people's lives and hearing about things that we don't talk much about.
Do you think that these suicide ideations have come from your best friend committing suicide?
Personally,
Yes.
I don't think so. Actually, I can't know for sure. I don't think so. I think if I had to take an educated guess, I would say and this probably applies to a lot of people. There's probably some genetic predisposition to that thinking, perhaps. And, how life unfolds, how it unfolds. And you just find yourself in this space where you're like, I'm not sure about this. And like I had therapists and I think I had a better experience than it sounds like you had, but it didn't lead me to a space where I was like, I'm in a significantly better space. And then you have circumstantial challenges with relationships, like everyone does, work/money. And so you're like, I don't, life feels very hard and I'm not sure what the point is, but I'll tell you that doing this podcast helps me a lot. Which I think might, for some people, probably not the people who listen to this podcast, they kind of get it. But I once in a while do get asked, like, well, isn't it really hard? Isn't it feel dark? And I think it does far more good for me than anything else. So yeah, I like your questions though. People don't usually ask me questions. They just let me ask them. So I like that. But I'm open to other ones if you have them.
I love asking questions. I could ask questions till I'm blue in the face.
Well, ask anything you want and share anything you want.
I've shared a lot.
You have.
I'm more of a guy that likes questions than I'm not one of those guys that just I'm an open book with closed chapters. So I like specific questions versus just share whatever you want.
Right, right. I totally get that. I say that just because I feel like some people, there's just certain things they definitely want to share. And it usually comes up through the questions or the conversation, but sometimes it doesn't. And they have this burning desire to say, yeah, I got to get this out. I want to say this. So, but yeah, you did share that. I really do appreciate it. But if there's anything else you want to talk about or ask me, I'm open to it.
What has been your most difficult guess?
Ooh. Well, I won't name names.
No, I don't want you to name names.
I will tell you, it might come as a surprise, perhaps. There are some guests that have been more challenging to have open conversations with. Some people aren't very talkative, for example. That can be challenging, right?
Right.
But the ones that, what was the exact question? The hardest one or the one?
What is the hardest guess you've ever had on here?
Yeah. The ones that are hard for me, I don't know if they're that hard for me. The ones that I don't always feel like they fit and I have a hard time sometimes is, and you're not one of them, but people who have written books or speak a lot about this, they tend to sound like a soundbite.
For me, the hardest people for me to relate to are people that I feel like they're not being authentic. They're using short answers or scripted answers.
Right. So we're aligned with that. If the scripted answers, the sound bites, it's really, really hard. It's still okay because they're conveying information or things about their lives that I think are, aligned with the podcast. But yeah, so yeah, that's the first thing that came to mind are people who are, I don't know. It feels a little less authentic. I'm not saying it is, but there's a feeling around it. I like people who are raw and honest and open, like you know?
I think I mentioned to you earlier that, if I don't open up, I can't expect other people to open up.
I think that's
And there's
fair.
no point in suffocating or not sharing what's going on because it can only help someone if you open up.
Right. So why do you think people, and maybe especially men, don't?
Fear, fear, stress, anxiety. If I am in one of those modes, it's all consuming. I can't do anything. Rage also. Rage.
Right. But that's not part of the six letters, is it? Or maybe it is.
No,
I guess it's
no.
part of
And
it.
for me, anger is a secondary emotion. There's something before that to get to anger. Same thing with rage. You have to experience something else to get there.
Well, when you said earlier that you were angry about the video thing, what's the underlying, do you think?
Oh, well, that I can't upload it to my website.
Well, what you can do, I know it's not the same, is that you can you can take the audio and still make it a video and put your photograph. I know it's not the same, or you could put our photographs. I didn't realize that, man. I'm curious because you said the challenges of finding a job in large part because of your record.
Mhm.
What are your days like?
My days are spent studying my Bible, exercising, reaching out to people, journaling, keeping busy. Idle hands are a devil's playground. When Eve and David sinned, they were an idol. They
Right.
weren't doing what they should have been doing.
Wait, hang on. Because I don't know much about the Bible. What should they have been doing?
David should have been working in the fields.
Okay. Eve?
Eve should have been with Adam.
Okay. I gotcha. So, but she wasn't idle.
She was idle.
She was?
Yeah, she was not doing what God had asked her to do.
Got it. Hmm.
So a lot of times when people are sin, it's because they're idle and bored and looking for that next threat.
What do you think about people who would hear this? And I know you've dealt with this a lot in your life, whether it's their sexual orientation, their political affiliation, their religion, or whatever else. They're like, I just don't resonate with Matt because of that stuff.
Well, reach out to me. We'll have a conversation. I'll find something that we have in common.
Yeah. Have you ever thought about having a podcast because you like to ask
Oh,
questions?
everybody asks me that. It's a lot of work.
Tell me about it. Tell me about it. Tell me about it. It is a lot of work. It is a lot of work. But
And it's a crowded space.
that is true too. I only ask us. Well, the main reason I ask is because you like asking questions.
I do, but I think a lot of people get burnt out as well, Sean. And it's very hard to monetize it.
I mean, you are preaching to the choir right now. Tell me about it. Yeah, yeah. I think if you go in with those intentions, it can be really, really hard, for sure.
Yeah, and I
Yeah,
think, just like with starting any business, it takes a long time to get up to, there's a ramp up period.
yeah,
And unless you have financial backers, it's really hard.
yeah. I know you're open about a lot of aspects of your life, but you've not, for whatever reason, in part because people never asked you about any thoughts of suicide. This podcast clearly has the name in the title. So does anybody know that we're talking right now? I guess.
No, I don't think anybody knows that we're talking.
Now, when this comes out, do you think you'll listen to it and or share it? And I'm not asking you to, but I'm just curious. Do you want other people to hear it, whether you know them or not?
Oh, I want everybody to hear.
Even people you know?
Yes.
Hmm.
Because it can resonate with anybody.
So you're okay with them knowing a few parts of our conversation? You talked about not wanting to be alive. That's cool with you?
Yes.
Do you think there's any chance that you'll ever be in that space again?
If I allow my mind to wander and I'm not in the Bible and I have wandering thoughts, perhaps, but
Yeah.
it's all about staying focused.
That's cool, man. Do you have any other podcast appearances coming up?
I do.
Tell me, I'm curious, what kind of podcasts have you been on and will you be on?
I've been on David Meltzer. I've been on Entrepreneurs on Fire, and I've been on probably 30 plus podcasts. Just like everything else in life, I had somebody who canceled our interview yet tomorrow. I've had people not show up. It's,
Right.
People have excuses every day of the week of why they can't do what they say they're going to do. My mind could wander and I could get angry and sad about people not doing what they say they are. But it's just like every people in my life. There's certain men and women in my life that are reliable, dependable, and others that are flakes.
I would say the majority of the people I speak to have never been on a podcast. So that's a really interesting distinction.
I've been on podcasts. I've been on a radio show. People have said you should go on the radio. You have a great voice.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. Like Entrepreneurs on Fire. I've heard of that one. What was that conversation like? Are you an entrepreneur?
I mean, I am because I wrote a book. It was not really my target audience. I have a feeling that it opened the door to David Meltzer. Without being on that show, I wouldn't have gotten the exposure to be on David Meltzer. Look, I would love to be on Joe Rogan show.
I bet. What was David Meltzer like?
It was fun, but it's very short. He only gives you 10, 15 minutes.
Oh, okay. Okay.
That's just the way they do things.
All right. So your main way of exposure is, it sounds like this.
I'm on Instagram, Bullied Behind Bars, X Bars Bullied.
Okay.
Facebook, Matthew.Melvin.5621. My book is available on Amazon. My website is bulliedbehindbars.com. You can email me, bulliedbehindbars@gmail.com. Love to hear from you.
For sure. Wait, I'm going to check out. I didn't check out your website. I didn't know that was your website. I'm going to definitely check it out. Bulliedbehindbars.com. It's a great name. It's very visual, and also it's an alliteration, right? BBB.
Yes.
I like it. That's really cool, man.
Quick digression. I should add, for some reason, and I cannot tell you why, I did not ask Matt the pink and purple pill question. I did ask him after we talked via email, and he made it very clear that he would absolutely not take that pill.
Well, hey, Matt, I'm very grateful and appreciate that you talk with me, man.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for talking, man. I hope your day is decent.
All right. Sounds good. Thank you.
Take care, Matt.
As always, thanks so much for listening and all of your support. And special thanks to Matt in Vermont. Thanks, Matt. If you are a suicide attempt survivor or ideator and you'd like to talk, I'd love to talk with you. Please reach out. hello@suicidenoted.com. Learn more about this podcast at our website, suicidenoted.com. You can check out all the different things in Apple and Spotify and wherever you listen. There's all kinds of links and information there as well. Remember, we've got this weekly poll on Spotify. Check that out. And if you think we are a 5-star worthy podcast, I would really appreciate a rating on Apple. It helps people find the podcast, and we want more people to find the podcast. Really appreciate your support with that. And that is all for this week's episode. Stay strong. Do the best you can. I'll talk to you soon.